And welcome to another episode of the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast. I'm Taylor Phillips. He's Ed Smith. Going to talk about the Lions mostly, and then we're going to talk a little bit of Tigers and Comerica Park as well, along with a little bit of college basketball. So let's get to it. The Lions, despite facing adversity, beat the Packers in Green Bay at Lambeau Field 20-16 to end their season at 9-8. The Lions, they overcame adversity. 5 penalties against them, 4 against the Packers. Also, Kirby Joseph picks off Aaron Rodgers for a third time of the season. Lions get a first down on 4th and 1. DJ Chark, that catch right there, sealing it. Jamal Williams, man, 2 touchdown carries. Oh, and he passed Barry Sanders for the most NFL running back touchdowns in Detroit Lions history.
In a single
That's some
season.
kind of record. Yeah,
in a single season. That is very impressive. To break a record held by any record held by Barry Sanders is remarkable. But the fact that it was the single season touchdown record, when the first thing you think of when you think of Barry Sanders is his electrifying touchdown runs. It's incredible. Congrats, Jamal, on that.
yes. Also, lots of Lions fans and fans of other NFL teams thought the referees were trying to screw the Lions completely. Not at all. That was a bad call that went against the Packers too. Even a touchdown was wiped out by a penalty. But you pointed out off air that it was the right call, that holding call. Also, an easy pass interference call on Jerry Jacobs. I mean, he's got to learn not to
mention the hands.
Stayed,
don't forget the hands to the face. The hands to the face that wiped out the other Kirby Joseph interception. Otherwise, he would have had 4 on Aaron Rodgers.
Right.
I mean, you could say that one was ticky-tack, but it was by the rule. I know it's a bit triggering. It's triggering for any Lions fan to see hands to the face penalties, especially in Lambeau, when you think of how that Monday night game ended a couple years back. So I get it, but it was the right call.
It was. Got to go by the rule, and ultimately, those were the right calls, and the way the rest of society reacts is typically premature and flat out knee jerk. But that's been going on for over a decade, for almost a decade rather. It's 2023. It's now exactly a decade, to be honest. And then after the game, Jamo publicly went after the media and whined about how everyone picked the Packers to win that game, which wasn't even nearly true. Some media outlets picked the Lions to win. Some analysts, not everyone, but some analysts picked the Lions to win, whether it be from ESPN or Bleacher Report or The Score or any type of outlet. Some have picked the Lions to win.
I can say though, to be fair, I think he was just using that as a generalization because, to be fair, a good majority were picking the Packers. Because let's think about it. Think about how it was all set up. For regardless of what was going to happen in the Seattle game, the Packers, it was simple. Win and you're in. It's prime time. It's Lambeau. It's Aaron Rodgers. It is the final game of the regular season. Of course, all the attention is going to be on the Packers more so than the Lions. So what that narratives, and please look at the presentation from the intro of the game to the fact that you heard Tirico and Collinsworth on commentary basically just slobbering all over Rodgers and Green Bay the entirety of that game. You knew what it was going to be coming into that. But credit to the team, blocking out the noise, using that as fuel and motivation, and they took it out on Green Bay.
And overcoming adversity.
Exactly. Back to your point. And you know what?
Tough to win on the road.
Speaking of overcoming, well, forget about that part. They've established that, no matter what, like it all goes back to Hard Knocks, what Dan Campbell's talking about. We could play you at a landfill or wherever. It doesn't matter. 1 ass cheek, 3 toes. I'll still beat your ass. And that's exactly what we saw in that game. But in talking about overcoming adversity, the Lions had to overcome some adversity early on when Green Bay was looking to move down the field, gone to the red zone early and often. Well, early on, I believe, on their first drive of the game. We're looking to get an early touchdown, but credit to the defense on the front line, specifically Isaiah Buggs. Back-to-back plays to try to get the ball up the middle to Aaron Jones because he was getting some good runs early. They were trying to replicate what had doomed them against Carolina. But credit to Isaiah Buggs deep in the red zone near the goal line. Back-to-back plays, swallowing up the run game, forcing it to an obvious third down passing situation where the defense, they held firm, they held them to 3, and trust me, if you can hold them to 3 instead of 7, that's a 4-point play right there. That set the tone for how this game was going to be close throughout. And honestly, there's a lot of this game that mirrored what we saw in Ford Field a few weeks back when you think about it. It was low scoring. Both defenses were aware. They were making plays. They were causing havoc, getting turnovers, sacks, you name it. You were not seeing offensive explosions that you normally would between what we've seen from the Lions this year and what Green Bay is always capable of with Aaron Rodgers. So, knowing that, it's not really a surprise in hindsight that we saw another defensive slugfest. Knowing that, it's going to come down to key differences. What do you do in key moments, key situations, key big plays? And to me, it came down to what happened on fourth down. 3 specific fourth downs I'll mention. You can argue a fourth, but honestly, that was the same drive of where Aaron Jones fumbled the ball, which was, again, another big momentum shift, but I'll get to that. But there was 3 big fourth downs here. The first one was early on when Matt LaFleur decided to go for it deep in his own territory, mind you. Instead of punting it, flipping the field, he decided to go for it, did a toss pass toss sweep out to Aaron Jones, and Alex Anzalone, who, mind you, he failed to wrap him up in a tackle early on in the game. And granted, he's been the brunt end of some criticism of fans, but he's been rock solid in many parts this year as well. He's got a good number of tackles, number of good plays, tackles for loss. And he made a big play right there on that 4th and 1 stop because Green Bay, they had got their 3 points. They were trying to move the ball down the field to get some more points. The Lions were able to make that stop, get the ball back on turnovers. And again, that was a momentum swing that they desperately needed to keep them in that game because you felt like in a game of this magnitude, the slightest differences would be the difference, would be all, the edge that you needed. Another fourth down that I saw later on, and not the one that we saw at the end of the game, but this was, I believe, in the fourth quarter, a couple of drives before that. The Lions were trying, to get down the field to take the lead. It was about 4th and 2 or so near the red zone. Some were saying, should you kick the field goal? Should you not? Dan Campbell immediately told his offense, no, stay your behinds out there. You know what you can do. To me, that was an example of an evolution, I think, that Dan Campbell has taken as a head coach this year. And I'll get to that in a second as well. But suffice it to say, they convert the 4th down. Jamal Williams not only gets his 2nd touchdown of the game, which, of course, breaks Barry Sanders' record, he also, on the season, surpasses 1,000 yards rushing on the ground. So when you think about his efforts throughout the whole year and the fact that he was able to culminate it with this type of performance against his former team, who he's got nothing but love. He's had nothing but love and respect for the entire way. Pretty remarkable, kind of a nice bookend storybook moment for him, which would kind of explain why he had gotten so emotional at the end of the game, gotten the game ball, dedicating the game to his late great-grandfather. That type of emotional leadership, why he is liked in the locker room, why he has been such a force for this team, and why I feel, and a lot of people feel, he should definitely come back next year. Whatever money you got to pay him or however you got to figure that out, definitely get Jamal Williams a contract because he deserves that. He definitely deserves to be with this team for the next couple of years for sure. Now, on the flip side of things, big credit to the defense stepping up again after having some early troubles, giving up some couple of big runs. I mentioned Isaiah Buggs making some big plays. How about my boy Aiden Hutchinson getting 2 sacks on Aaron Rodgers? You already picked him off early this season. Now you got 2 sacks on him. You can argue he could have had a strip sack fumble as well, the way it looked on that replay. It was close, but I'm not going to complain because, both of those sacks were momentum killers on drives for Green Bay when we were trying to get down the field and extend their lead. And it was just, again, the way Aiden performed in that game reminded me a whole lot of how he did against Ohio State in 2021, his last game at the Big House. The 3-sack game, the national performance, that's the type of hype and performance that got him into New York for the Heisman ceremony. And with the talk and discussion of who's going to be the defensive rookie of the year, is it going to be Hutch? Is it going to be Sauce Gardner? You can make an argument that honestly, with the type of performance that Aiden Hutchinson had, Sunday Night Football, prime time, with the whole nation watching you in Green Bay against Aaron Rodgers, you might have had a type of opinion swaying performance where you might have wrapped yourself up defensive rookie of the year. And even if he doesn't, that's still fine. He still finishes the year with 9.5 sacks, a fumble recovery or 2, 3 interceptions. Come on, think about. That's exactly why you draft a guy like him, number 2 overall in the draft.
Highly impressive.
Exactly. You thank goodness, you thank the good Lord, Trent Baalke and Tony Khan for deciding to take on Trayvon Walker and let Hutch fall to you at number 2, because he has been the perfect fit for this team since day one. He's going to continue to be a perfect fit. He is the absolutely focal point and face of the defense. You can argue he's the face of your entire team. And if you surround him and you build around him, like Ndamukong Suh was talking about in his tweet from earlier this season, build around Hutch, that defense will help you win a hell of a lot of ball games, potentially win you some championships. And I'll get to that down the line. But credit to Hutch. Even if he doesn't win Defensive Rookie of the Year, I could not be more but proud of him. Still, in a game like this where it was close, you still need some things to go some way. A little bit of luck, opportunistic luck. Whereas the Lions had some things go.
Opportunistic is right, yeah.
Yeah, whereas the Lions had some things go against their way, like the missed field goal, by Badgley, which was funny. I remember seeing that, and practically everyone on Twitter was like, "Yep, okay, when can we draft Jake Moody?" So I was like, "Poor guy." Thankfully, he made up for it later on by nailing that 33-yarder at the end of the half to get us within 3 points, which was set up by the fact of that aforementioned Aaron Jones fumble that I talked about, which was a very key point in that game, which I consider another momentum-shifting play, where the Lions, thankfully, were able to prevent one of the Green Bay players from touching the ball while he was still out of bounds, which would have meant the Packers kept possession. So good awareness. That's another thing that I think isn't mentioned about the awareness that's being taught with our players, like we saw with Hutchinson trying to go after that fumble because that loose ball because he thought it was a strip sack fumble. That's on the coaching, and that's credit to the coaching. So seeing the players jump on that ball like that creates an opportunity where you can drive the ball down the field and get you those 3 extra points that you need before the end of the half, knowing that you're going to start the second half with the ball. And when that second half began and played, you saw the kneecap mentality of this team that I mentioned before. It showed through, whether it be getting key plays to Amon-Ra St. Brown throughout. Again, finishes his season with over 100 yards reception. That dude is going to be a problem for defenses for years to come, especially when you have a weapon like Jameson Williams, who, frankly, I don't care. I don't give a damn if that touchdown was called back. Seeing him turn on the turbo boosters like he was playing Madden on that catch across the middle and take it up across the sideline for a touchdown, magnificent. And it's just a reminder of what
performance is key.
Yes, it's what this offense can truly be. Fans, enjoy Ben Johnson as long as you can. I believe you will keep him here for at least one more year. I'll be stunned if he is not a head coach by 2024. By 2024, 2025, because he's shown of what he can do with Jared Goff, with the weapons around Jared Goff, and speaking of Jared Goff, how about how he has played this year? When especially after the 1-6 start, everyone was saying, "Oh my God, what can we do to possibly get our next quarterback in the draft?" And to see how Jared Goff performed down the stretch, he's thrown now over 300 or so plus consecutive passes without throwing an interception. He threw only 1 interception, 1 pick the entire 9 or 10 game stretch of the remainder of the season. He finishes the season with 68% complete. Almost right. That's almost a 70% clip of completing his passes. That's solid accuracy. Whether he was throwing it mid, check downs or lifting some deep balls, like you saw on that deep ball at the Khalif Raymond, which set up the first Jamal Williams touchdown. And the fact that he was able to do it with not just throwing for 29 touchdowns, but also taking care of the ball. 7 interceptions the whole year. The thing that really played golf last year was those turnovers, the fumbles, the bad picks. And though we saw some of that this year, he sharpened that up and took care of the ball very well. He was the example of game manager, if you want to say that. But still, without that, you don't have a chance to win many of these ball games, because you still need your quarterback to go down there and drive the ball down the field for your offense. And Jared Goff has been that guy for you all year. He's been that guy for you the whole time he's been here, and he's going to be that guy for you again in 2023, dare I say 2024. If you have a defense, if you have the solid pieces and other skill positions, don't worry about rushing to get your quarterback right now. I know everybody wants the Patrick Mahomes. They want the Josh Allen. They want, the Justin Fields of the world. I get it. You want a Justin Herbert. You want a Joe Burrow. I get it. But sometimes you got to deal with the hands that you're dealt with. And if you can tell me that, hey, I can build a team with one of the best offensive lines in the whole damn league. B, a solid core rotation of running backs. C, pieces on the defense of where I can add more key spots that can make this defense a real formidable unit, especially with my front line. Yeah, I'm going to do whatever resources I can to fill out those aspects and not focus so much, because I have trust in my quarterback. Brad Holmes has trust in Jared Goff for a reason. He saw it all the way back when he drafted him up till now, and he's reaffirmed that in his end of the season press conference as well. So I have no qualms of Jared Goff being the quarterback for the Lions next year, and fans better get used to it.
Yeah, and like I said before, since they started 1-6, they've been just working out the kinks. I pointed this out several hundreds of times before. They weren't intentionally trying to make a playoff run. They were working out some kinks. I know they let go of T.J. Hawkinson, their tight end, but they fired their defensive backs coach Aubrey Pleasant since 1-6, and they went 8-2 by winning 7 consecutive games before losing to Carolina. I think that one interception thrown by Jared Goff in that 10-game stretch was against the Carolina Panthers. Correct me if I'm wrong, but but seriously, that's just a highly impressive run. It shows why the Lions are at least one of the teams to beat, if not the lone team to beat, in the NFC North Division.
It shows the progress that I wanted to see. That's
amazing progress.
That's all we wanted to see in year 2 from Dan Campbell. What can you do from last year? Because we understand you had a 3-win season, but we saw
not just Dan Campbell, but the rest of the team, the rest of the coaching staff. Ben Johnson, like you mentioned, Aaron Glenn, all the players, Aiden Hutchinson, Jamal Williams, Jared Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Kirby Joseph of all people. Even though Jeff Okudah has shown injury absences, he's improved somewhat. He's made progress too.
By the way, Kirby Joseph become the first player other than Brian Urlacher to intercept Aaron Rodgers 3 times ever, and he did it in 1 year. Could have had a 4th one if not for a penalty. They found, and think about those names that you mentioned. They weren't all first-round dudes, okay? You found guys in the 3rd round.
Not all of them.
6th round. You found guys in the 4th round. Don't forget about James Houston.
Anyway.
Do not forget about James Houston. That is on your GM. That is credit to
James
your GM.
freaking Houston.
Brad Holmes has done a magnificent job. He's going to continue to do a magnificent job no matter what spot in the draft that you put us at. So now it comes down to what can your coaches do? And
feed us more, Bradley.
And what you saw, what Dan Campbell did after that 1-6 stretch, and after the 3-13-1 last year, how they came together and finished this season strong, simply remarkable. He was aggressive when he needed to be. He was aware. He was situational when he needed to be situational. But of course, when it was time to put the big balls on the table and show everyone this is MCDC and we're here to bite some doggone kneecaps, it was time. Like you saw on that friggin' bubble screen, tunnel screen, hook and ladder on that final drive from St. Brown to Swift, which, by the way, featured Panay Sewell almost killing someone with a block down the field. And then you cap it off.
Forgot to mention him.
You cap it off. Oh, yeah. You cap it off with, I mentioned Jared Goff. Think about this. Probably a couple of the biggest plays of the game relied on Jared Goff. Or the big throw down the field to Khalif Raymond, that flea flicker to the JMO that got called back, or whether it was the fourth down play with everything on the line, empty set, you know who's getting the ball, and what do? Get it out quick, DJ Chark, first down, game over, season over. And not just season over, we're talking about potentially the Aaron Rodgers era in Green Bay over. Think about that. Think about how Rodgers was looking at the end of that game, how he looked at the crowd, how he looked at the fans, how he walked off the field, walked down the tunnel with Randall Cobb handed arm, by his side. The NBC cameras focusing on him. The fact that he said to Jameson Williams when J-Mo asked for his jersey, Rodgers said, "No, I think I'm going to keep this one." Think about that. That is a lot.
He's been aging.
And yeah, this was not a good year for him as well. Coming off of back-to-back MVP seasons, he's 38, 39, approaching that soon. That's a lot to show or to ask for of a guy that you're going to pay $50 million to. And if he does retire, and let's say he doesn't retire, and say he doesn't want to come back to Green Bay, that's a potential tricky situation because that's going to be involving a lot of money. A lot of cap hit, a lot of dead money, and now you're forcing a situation of where
his decline in performance.
But also, not to mention, think about how this screws over Jordan Love. You could have had all this time and opportunity to get Jordan Love prepped, prime him up to be in as good a position as possible, and now, in my opinion, you've stunted his development with dealing with this Aaron Rodgers drama bullshit for the past 3 years now. And look, and what has it gotten you? 0 championships and nothing but constant failure after failure after failure. And what did the season end with? How it has always ended so far for the majority of Aaron Rodgers' career. A disappointing home loss in January.
Wow. Huh. Man. Well, I mentioned his decline in performance because of the way he has been aging up to this past regular season. He might have to retire, possibly.
Put down ayahuasca.
Right. So, yeah, the Lions are going to be one of the teams to beat. With all that being said, in the NFC North, Lions. I'm looking at two teams here: the Lions and the Vikings for next season.
Yep. Because I still see the Bears trying to figure themselves out, and I see the Packers falling off a cliff potentially. It'll be decline for Green Bay for sure next year. So that leaves two teams. And knowing for a fact that the Lions went 5-1 against the division this year, should have gone 6-0 if not for how they bungled and foobarred the end of the game against the Vikings in Minnesota. But B, going back to that, for the majority of both those games, they kicked the Vikings' ass in both those games. So knowing that, and
especially at home, winning by 11,
and knowing
that second meeting,
but knowing how you can perform against the rest of your division, winning your division games, as long as you take care of business against the rest of the conference, you can absolutely win your division next year. And Dan Campbell talked about it. He mentioned it in the week leading up to this game of how he and Brad Holmes have mentioned 2023 as the goal to compete for the division title. And you know what? The fact that you went from 3 wins in year 1 to tripling that win total in year 2 and finishing the season with a winning record while also screwing over the Packers at the same time and potentially ending the Aaron Rodgers era. I will take that as the ultimate consolation prize for missing the playoffs. Yes, I will, and also it saves me from having to watch potential disappointing, playoff loss in the season. and gives me hope, even better hope for what I could see for next year, for sure. Which again, I'm expecting them to contend for the division title. I know Minnesota will make it tough, but again, I like our chances in that.
Yeah, the way the Lions played the Vikings in both games was solid this past regular season. So it'll be interesting to see for next season, especially for Lions fans. And to be honest, the Vikings and Lions are going to play each other tough, to be fair. But I think the Lions will sweep the Vikings game by game. It'll be a win by under 10 points, unlike that second meeting when the Lions won by 11, just barely, to be honest. Those were fights. The Vikings got away with the Lions let the Vikings get away in that first meeting at US Bank Stadium in Minneapolis, 28-24. But 34-23 the second meeting. You know what? It's on. My ceiling for the Lions next season, 2023 to 2024, is 11 wins.
Oh yeah, you got to
as
raise
high
those
as 11.
You have got to raise those expectations. For me, the basement is wild card. The ceiling is NFC North champions. Period. If you can win, I think listen. Think about the fact that 10 wins likely could have gotten you that wild card spot, not just the 7th spot, but probably the 6th spot this year. I think more than likely 10 wins. 10 wins probably wins you the division. So 11 wins is nice. Sounds good for sure. That for sure guarantees the division. But I'd say 10 wins would be my ceiling for them. Remember, I set my ceiling for them at 7 wins this year, and they surpassed that by a +2. So knowing that, I got to raise the difficulty. But knowing what this team has and what they can build upon, I think 10 wins is very much doable. Because if you just figure out a better start to the season, you won't be in the spot where you have to rely on other teams to lose or to win in order for you to make the playoffs. You control your own destiny, okay? And this becomes a lesson and a reminder and a motivation for next year is, hey, don't start 1-6. Handle your business early. Do what you got to do. Play your butts off, but win your games. That way, stuff that's out of your hands won't feel as, a kick in the balls from the universe.
Right. That way it wouldn't have come down to a situation where fans thought, man, here comes that conspiracy again. No. Come on. Stop with that shit already, please.
I won't say, listen, multiple things can be true. There was not a conspiracy against Detroit against that Rams Seahawks game. But the refs did, I would say, blew a couple of big calls down to stretch that game.
Well, such as running into the punter.
Yeah, that running into the punter was atrocious. You can debate the Jalen Ramsey flag, but back and forth. But the running into the punter was horrible. The fact that DK Metcalf literally poked out, tried to poke out Ramsey's eyes in front of the ref, didn't get called. That was awful. And
right. But you got to play through it.
Don't forget the Quandre Diggs interception.
The Seahawks doink that.
I was going to say, don't forget the Quandre Diggs interception where, honestly, taunting should have been called, especially when he did it right in front of the referee. So that's on. But
still, Baker Mayfield threw the interception right to that former Lion.
Exactly. I was going to say.
And before that, in that drive where Jalen Ramsey got flagged for a late hit, technically called unnecessary roughness, but still late hitting anyway, the Seahawks doinked their extra point or field goal kick off the right post.
Yeah, that was the ultimate ball. That was the ultimate.
They didn't win in regulation.
That was the ultimate ball online moment. And honestly, if Baker had just put better,
which gave the Rams that same opportunity when Baker Mayfield threw that interception, the Rams could have won it with a field goal. The Seahawks had the ball first.
Listen, if Baker just didn't go full Rex Grossman, just put a better zip on the ball instead of trying to air it out, that's a walk-in touchdown for Van Jefferson. Game over. Right.
Had he been wide open, not in coverage.
No, right. Van was wide open.
He was, yeah.
Baker underthrew the hell out of that ball. Just throw him open down the field Van catches a walk-in touchdown.
Yeah, but Quandre Diggs came out of nowhere, read that pass well, and took it away.
Which, by the way, you
That's
mentioned
part of the secondary defender's job, like I pointed out several hundreds of times to the Lions and to college football teams too.
You mentioned Quandre Diggs being the former Lion. Think about why he became a former Lion, because of Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn. So once again, Quinn Tricia finding a way to screw over the Lions at the end.
Yep. So that clears up the fact that the Lions did not get screwed by the referees. Thank you very much. For those that are watching, those that want to argue, well, that's not going to help them. Sorry. Moving on to some Tigers. Let's do a What's Your Grade segment, shall we? The Tigers have traded closing pitcher Gregory Soto and third baseman Kody Clemens to the Philadelphia Phillies for infielder Nick Maton, outfielder Matt Vierling, and catcher Donny Sands. Ed, what is your grade on the Soto Clemens trade to the Phillies?
C+. You get potential defensive help, but I don't know what it does for you offensively. Soto, I think he could have been much better in situational pitching as opposed to him being the closer, but it is what it is. Clemens,
too many balls.
Yeah, just and ERA way too high, especially if you want to be a closer. No,
can't have that.
No, exactly. And Clemens, it's whatever. Good to see that he could be, I guess, someone else's new Don Kelly. But yeah, I'm not going to shed tears over that.
No, this is not Don Kelly that we're talking about. We're talking about new, fresh blood.
I'm just saying for what Clemens can be on someone else's roster. Oh, right.
Still,
yeah, but I like the depth and potential defensive help that we got in return. So I C+ grade.
Yeah, now the pressure's all on Javier Baez to not make 25 errors or so in a single regular season, which made me freaking puke. Well, now only Javier Baez can commit so many new Tigers roster compared to the Tigers roster that the roster that the Tigers had before with Jamer Candelario, the Castro twins. Is Jonathan Scope gone yet?
Unfortunately, I think he's still here.
Man, he's too slow and he can't squeeze the baseball in his glove. He can't field the ball cleanly. He keeps dropping pop-ups. I mean, he can't hit either. It's just sloppy, just lazy.
His power is inconsistent.
Right.
He has power, but it's just not consistent enough.
Not consistent. That's a good point, Ed. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give it a B-. I'm going to go out on a limb here. So.
Well, listen. If we get good pitching performance and depth out of it as a result, I got no problems with that.
Or right. Yeah, but I'm just talking about this trade solely. You get defensive help.
Exactly.
You get new hitting coaches to help them with their hitting. I mean, what more could he ask for from new hitting coaches, right?
Yeah, but you gotta see how the results bear fruit first.
Right, gotta prove it. Yeah, gotta prove it on the field and in the dugout too, as a coaching staff. Speaking of the Tigers, their current ballpark, Comerica Park, will shorten its right center and right field walls to just 7 feet high. Right center field was like 13.5 feet high, and right field was 8 feet high. So more home runs and more home run robberies by outfielders. That's an even playing field for you there. But
yeah, dead center.
Either team.
Dead center was a good 424-22. They're moving that in by 10 feet. So I have no problem with that. That one
definitely, yeah.
That one, that part of the field of the stadium has always been ridiculous.
Correct. And
it's not too much of an off. It gives a little bit of the leeway to the hitter without making it too much of an offensive advantage.
They did a fair estimate.
Yeah, it's a good compromise.
Yeah, very, very fair and great compromise, in fact. So there's that. So, hey, whether you like it or not, the Michigan State Spartans have won 2 straight. They beat Michigan 59-53 and Wisconsin in Madison 69-65. And it's not the first time either as of late.
Well, they're on a rhythm, and it's showing them. I think weren't they considered one of the potential favorites to win the conference this year by some outlets? I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised. It is Michigan State.
They have a good record. They have a good conference record. The Spartans do.
Right. So I will be on the lookout for them to be one of the ones.
Right now, the standings. Right. Yeah. Right now, the standings. It's a battle. You never know what's gonna happen. You still got like less than 2 months left in that conference schedule.
And there's still plenty of season for Michigan to turn this year around. But yeah, to say I'm not impressed would be an understatement.
No, 2 of 18 from 3.
Horrible.
Yeah,
that game itself was not that game itself was not pretty as a whole to look at, but shooting 2 of 18 from 3, ugh.
Even the Pistons can shoot better than those guys did. Speaking of the Pistons, they shot like 53% tonight in their 135-118 victory over the Minnesota Timberwolves at Little Caesars Arena earlier tonight. Whoa, baby.
Good on them showing they can win games without K. Just don't win too many.
Oh, right. Because after giving up 147 points in a 147-116 loss in Philly to the 76ers, they got blown out by the Sixers again in Philly, second time this season. But I know the Pistons defense is awful, but man, the Sixers can shoot too. I'm leveling both teams here.
Right, you have an outstanding player like Joel Embiid who can get what he wants, in the paint, whether it be against an undersized Isaiah Stewart or a rookie Jalen Duren. Yeah, you expect something like that to happen.
Yeah. So, but if the Pistons can keep that shooting up, they may have a chance to win more games than we expect. They just got to keep it up and stop shooting like crap and just shoot better like you did tonight.
It can't be just right. It's got to be more by committee. It can't be just your usual shooters like Bogdanovich, for example. You got to see more from Killian. You got to see more from Ivy.
Saddiq Bey, 31 points.
Exactly. Good for Saddiq. Hope he can keep that up because remember how
and he shot the game-winning 3 at Golden State about over a week ago.
Yeah, exactly. So it's good to see.
I stayed up way late to catch that thriller.
It's good to see him make a turnaround for his sake because he had a real bad stretch through the early part of the season.
Yeah, and then the Red Wings scored 7 goals against the 53-point Winnipeg Jets in a 7-5 victory. Okay. That was hard fought.
All right. Hey, but it's 2 crucial points. You're going to need them for every game down the stretch of the second half, especially after the All-Star break.
I believe the Red Wings have 41 points after tonight's victory.
Yeah,
after last night's victory,
they got a chance to compete for a wild card spot.
Yeah, the Red Wings do. Yeah, so that's that. Those are all the teams we've covered.
Right. I mean, granted, you had you still got you got Bertuzzi's coming back soon if he hasn't come back already, right? So that'll be a good boost. What was that?
Yeah, Mo Sider with 4 assists.
Yeah, but I was talking about Bertuzzi coming back. Tyler Bertuzzi.
Right. I heard you.
Right. It's perfect timing for this team. It could be a real boost for them for this potential wild card push.
Yeah. Jake Wallman's been red hot as of late. He scored another goal.
Good on him.
Jonathan Berggren, he's showing his weapons.
Then of course your captain leading the way as well.
Yep. The sports show says, yeah, Dylan Larkin got a goal. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a slugfest. 84 attempts by the Winnipeg Jets. Wow. Oof. 84 shot attempts? I mean, you got to be kidding me. Those Winnipeg Jets can play aggressive, but the Red Wings just need to tighten up better on defense in their own zone.
Yeah, they'll get there.
Yeah, they're trying. They've been trying at times, but yeah, they just need to progress more. That's all. So yeah, thanks to the sports show watching us on YouTube on our YouTube channel, the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast. So, with that being said, those are all the teams that we've covered. And that's another episode of the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast. I'm Taylor Phillips. He's Ed Smith. Follow the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast on Twitter and Instagram at Michigan_Truth. Like its Facebook page. Subscribe to its YouTube channel at the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast. And listen to audio episodes on Spreaker. Business shout-outs go to Cali Tickets. Call 877-225-8425 or go to CaliTickets.com. Creative embroidery of Cadillac, designing my Michigan Sports Truth Podcast logo on my long sleeve shirt and T-shirt over there. United Food Service Solutions of Grand Ledge, Michigan. Edo Ramen House in Royal Oak. Call 248-556-5775 to place a carryout order or stop in to try one of their Japanese and Filipino restaurants like Josette. My girlfriend Josette and I went to a couple times, including this past Sunday. And then same for the Red Ox Tavern in Auburn Hills. She and I stopped there. Those burgers, their burgers are awesome. And so are their soups. Got all sorts of big screen TVs to watch all kinds of sports, including football, basketball, hockey, and baseball. Everything. Horse racing as well. Tennis, soccer, golf, and everything. And Jeff Moss, keep in mind, 5.5 years ago, did his Detroit Sports Rag on TV pilot episode on his YouTube channel, as you may recall. So, those are the business shout-outs that we have. Until next week, I'm Taylor Phillips. He's Ed Smith. TTFN, ta-ta for now. Power of the people. Remember, the truth is out there.
Take care, everyone.